Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine. Today, we are welcomed with Brian Kendrick. How we doing, man?
I'm doing well, Justin. Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm very blessed, very excited. Watched you since I was a very young man, and this is one of those interviews I never thought I'd get. So, thank you so much for coming on my platform and talking to me about your love for professional wrestling.
Thanks for reaching out.
Um, Before we get started, do you want to let the fans know, if they don't already know, where they can find you on social media so they can stay up to date with what's going on with yourself?
Yeah, social media, it's just Mr. Brian Kendrick on Instagram. And so any, events or anything I might have would be posted on there. If I'm coming to your town, it would be on
Perfect. Seeing as how we are the I Love Wrestling podcast, I always start at the beginning. We all have a story for when we fell in love with this crazy sport. So when did Brian Kendrick fall in love with professional wrestling?
It's when I saw the VHS of WrestleMania 6. It was Ultimate Warrior coming down to the ring. I walked over to a friend's house to play a board game, and they were watching the VHS. My two friends, Mike and Mark, and watched the match. I joined them watching the match, and I fell in love right away. I wanted to be the Ultimate Warrior. I became obsessed as soon as I saw that energy. It was like a Conan the Barbarian, but more colorful. It was like a He-Man come to life. I was just really fascinated by at that moment.
And upon doing research, I realized that you're originally from Washington D.C. or not Washington D.C., but Washington State. Excuse me.
I grew up out there.
Grew up out there. What made you decide to travel to Texas to start training at Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy?
Well, so I actually trained at a school in Texas before the Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
Um, and that was it was the NWA Southwest. It's a fine school too. Um, the reason I traveled is because this was the late '90s, and the internet was still dial up. It wasn't big. You didn't really know. People didn't know how you got into wrestling at this point. So there's a few schools that started to develop, and so there was nothing anywhere near me. Um, so I went to this school, then I went to Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy because I saw an opportunity to learn from Shawn Michaels.
Okay. And I read a rumor that you got the name Spanky from Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. Where did that come from?
It was I got it while at the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. Nobody gave it to me. I gave it to myself. I thought it'd be funny. It was a funny nickname, easy to chant, and I thought it'd be a funny. Sorry to be crude, but it's a funny masturbation reference. It's a funny. It was a funny way to get something crass in under Sean's nose.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then at the school, you're in there with fellow Washington uh, counterpart Bryan Danielson. You guys tagged together for the first year or half so your career. What was your experience like working with the young Bryan Danielson?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, we teamed here and there. A
Yeah,
few matches here and there, but we spent a lot of time together early on because we went to Sean's school at the same time. We went to Memphis the same time. Um, yeah, he was the person who I could count on the most to get in the ring with. I was really eager to train in the ring additional time, and Brian was the one who would be the most likely to join.
how did it feel when you first made it through the doors of the WWE?
Oh, Justin, I was so young, so it's hard to say. You know, um, it I was what I will remember is being nervous. I was really nervous because I was seeing people that I saw on TV in real life, and they really were huge, and I'm not I'm a small guy, and these guys are genuinely big guys, and they they were larger than life in my head as well because I admired what they did to the point of me trying to do. So I was terrified, petrified, real nervous around these guys. Um, but I was real excited to be there because that's where I dreamed to be.
Definitely. You know, being a kid, the first time I remember you was when you feuded with John Cena. And, you know, at that time you was going through an interesting time of your career, kind of, how do I say it? Like kind of I don't want to say mimicking Cena with the rap gimmick, but doing a similar gimmick as the rap gimmick with Cena. What was it like working with Cena at that stage of both of your careers?
Yeah, I mean, Cena was super entertaining. I mean, I thought he was really funny person in real life as well. Real funny, real uh, quick witted, and but he wasn't the megastar that he is now. Neither Bryan Danielson when I was training. These are people that I was just in there with at the same time that we crossed paths on their way to doing wonderful things. Uh, I remember enjoying it thoroughly. That little stint was seeing it. It was a lot of fun, and heck, it was almost 20 years ago. Might have been over 20 years ago at this point, and it was one of the few standout things in my career. It was a lot of
How do you feel about Cena's current heel run, since how you got to work with him during his original heel run?
fun. I saw one match from WrestleMania. I was over at a friend's house and saw uh, Cena, his main event match. Um, that's all I've seen of his entire run. I didn't even see the pre-show package, so I don't even know the encapsulated version of it. I just walked in as the match was starting. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. How is
Fair
it?
enough.
Is it good? Is it
I've
is it
enjoyed it. I think we could get a little bit more, but that's just a personal opinion.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
I think
think
it's
that's the
great that he's
point.
trying to do it. Yeah.
I
Oh, okay.
I think the point is to make us want more. So I'm interested in seeing, I guess, where the second half of it goes. But I don't know. I was a Cena kid, so like I
Yeah,
obviously want as much John Cena as possible, and so I
yeah.
feel like I'm not getting that, which I think, like I said, is the point of the whole ordeal. Um,
Oh no, you're
it,
cutting out.
can you hear me?
You got back in. Yeah, yep. I hear.
Good. You know, in 2004, you depart the WWE. What went into that decision? Why did you decide to exit?
Oh, just I've been hired and fired and fired and quit. And I don't remember if that was the firing or me quitting, but I remember uh, at one point I quit. I asked for my release um, because I felt stagnant at a young age. I'd come off of wrestling in Japan, and uh, and then I was wrestling in the WWE, and there was fantastic wrestlers there, but I wasn't wrestling. Um, and I would have been 23, 24 years old, pretty young, and I wanted to spend that time getting better as a wrestler. So I asked for my release, and they granted it to me. And luckily enough, I was able to go to Japan. And luckily enough, I didn't burn a bridge at that time to where WWE brought me back. So it worked out.
Definitely. You bring up Japan. So honestly, I think that some of your best work is working over in Japan, which
Well,
sadly,
thank you.
you know, I don't think a lot of people have got to witness that. So, how important would you say that your runs throughout the years have been to your career inside Japan?
Oh, I mean, it's been important for me in developing my style. The way I approach a match, the confidence I have in it. And it's anytime you spend anywhere and the amount of effort you put into it and what it is you want to take away from it. Um, I admired the Japanese style. I wanted to wrestle like them. I got to wrestle in Japan, wrestle against some really good wrestlers in Japan, and so yeah, it's developed. Uh, well, it's why I wrestle the intense style I wrestle.
Okay. I mentioned you left in '04, and then you'd come back and you'd in '05, and that's when you started your run with Paul London. Was that the deciding factor in coming back? Was being able to work with Paul, or do you remember what that factor may have been?
So I'd been back to New, or I'm sorry, 01, and I'd been hoping for a contract. They had to deal with hustle, which was uh, part of pride, and it was this whole contract negotiation I was waiting for from Japan that it wasn't a lot of money. It was just going to be guaranteed money, and it never came. And I got a call from WWE at that time, and they said, "Well, we're interested in bringing back the cruiserweight division. Would you be interested in coming back?" And I said, "Yes, yes, I would be." It wasn't something I'd been considering, but when the phone call came, I was really grateful for it. And I said, "Yes, I want to do."
You know, you we get put together with Paul. What was like your favorite moment or match if you had to pick one in your run with Paul London?
My favorite match that Paul and I had, I don't know. We had a lot of fun matches. I mean, there's uh like wrestling against Crime Time when we were supposed to be the faces, but it was at a WWE Access, so it's like at 9 a.m. and nobody's into it. So we became the bad guys. I remember that being a lot of fun. Uh, as far as matches you could see, um, I was proud of our match against the Teachers Pets, Casey James and Idol Stevens, because that's an obscure one. But I liked their match against the Pitbulls. I don't I liked their match against Eminem. We gelled well together.
Do you like ever look back on that and ever consider maybe running it back with Paul and getting, one more tag run with Paul London?
No.
No.
Uh, I mean, I don't I tend not to look back anyways.
Okay.
And the and then if I were to, I mean, go back and look back on it fondly, but to do it again, uh, it would be like the to me it'd be like the New Rockers, and that felt artificial. And I don't know if you know who the New Rockers were,
Yeah.
but it would feel like something that I guess it'd be like the New Kids on the Block or Backstreet Boys going back out there, but like they're too old to be wearing this outfit and pretending they're young. It was a tag team that a lot of it relied on being youth. You can move and all this, but it was a youthful energy behind it, and that no longer exists. So what it would do would just diminish any matter.
Fair enough. Was it challenging to go from being a tag partner or tag team with Paul and then transforming into the Brian Kendrick?
No, no. I
No.
mean, uh, because I'd wrestled plenty of singles before, and uh, Paul and I, we had this tag team thing down, and it was kind of going nowhere as far as how long could we just keep doing the same thing. Uh, they didn't really tag team division wasn't much of a focus. Uh, we were tag champs and weren't on major pay-per-views, so it was kind of pointless. This seemed like a way for new opportunities for me, and I was excited, and I'm also confident in my singles wrestling ability.
Okay. Did you uh did you expect to, I mean, become WWE champion for that couple minutes that was inside that matchup?
No, I suppose I suppose yes and no. If I would have been going single, and then what's your goal? To be a fucking champ, you know, and that's what I'd want to be. I'd want to be the champ. And uh but you know, the 15-year-old me that was dreaming or whatever, that seemed crazy to me. Uh so I'm happy to have that little asterisk next to my name. It's a fun little.
I really at that time, that's whenever I really started to understand wrestling was when yourself and Ezekiel Jackson were together, and he was your heater, big bodyguard, things like that. Why do you think that never went further? Because I feel like you guys were going on a climb, and then it just stopped. And I never understood that as a kid.
But um ultimately wasn't chosen. There's only so much time you can on a, you know, focus on somebody on TV. Um, you've got to hit all the right markers. Uh, and then on top of that, they've got to de-invest in something they've invested in already. Uh, I've got a personality that people don't always like. That's a big strike. Mouthy, that's a big strike. Way undersized, that is a big strike. Uh, Real confident in my ability, and wasn't shy to say it. And so all these things were strikes against. Um, you know, now I have to go against all these people who don't have those strikes against that they've already invested. Are they willing to invest in me with all those strikes? They chose not to. That was it. That was the that's the reality of
Okay. You end up leaving the WWE again in 2009. Um, and you go back on the indie scene. And, one of my favorite promotions that you do work for was Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or PWG. What was your experience like working with some of the best on the indies at the time in PWG, like, Kenny Omega or El Generico or even Colt Cabana?
PWG. It was so different to me than anywhere else. I couldn't wrap my head around. It's not Ring of Honor. Uh, it's uh, they're they're like a comedy show, and they're uh, if they got rid of those $10 pitchers of beer, the show falls to pieces. More so than, let's say, Ricochet and Rich Swan's flight got delayed and our main event is pulled. They can That audience can deal with that more than the alcohol not being. It was an atmosphere show. It was it was absolutely bizarre. Uh, uh, Super Dragon has this amazing eye for talent. Uh, it's like Gabe Sapolsky or Paul Heyman, to where he could see past the physique and see the star quality in these guys that would have been dismissed by Vince McMahon's scout. Uh, it was the weirdest show. I could never really get over on it myself with the crowd, but boy, was it interesting, and it'll be missed.
Was it surprising for you when you heard the news, or I guess the rumblings that they was no longer going to be doing shows?
I mean, all I've heard is gossip. I don't know, you know, and so I don't want to even uh, dig into it, but you know, yeah, it's sad. It's sad. If what I heard is true, it's just all around sad.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree. Um, you would end up doing work with TNA during the Hogan regime, the Hogan Bischoff regime. How much different was it working for TNA then as compared to the matches you did in the mid 2000s?
Oh, wait, for TNA
Yeah.
itself.
Yes.
Oh boy. So that I mean the one time I was in TNA, the first time it was just a weekend one when they were filming and I lived in Orlando. That was really a bunch of nothing. When when I came back, uh, I couldn't tell the difference because I didn't know who was in charge of what anyway. You know
Okay.
what I mean? It was an interesting place. Yeah, and I doubt it's anything like it was. Uh,
At that time in TNA, you had Hogan, you had Bischoff, you had Sting, Flair, um, just to name a few of some of like the greatest minds in this business, top talents in this business. Was you able to, talk to any of them or gain any insight or advice um, to help you gauge maybe the next part of your career?
Ooh, wow. No. Um, uh, as far as what do I do? What do I do next? No, I didn't. I was real fortunate to get to talk with both of those guys, Hogan and Flair. Um, and this sounds uh, shameful or whatever, but very little of it was wrestling. Um, I just tried to shoot the breeze about them with other common interests. Um, and to your to your question, not to say I totally waste opportunities. I've wasted plenty of opportunities. All that to say, though, I don't know if those would be the guys to ask what to do next after wrestling, because they're still in wrestling. They'll be in wrestling forever and ever. They've made millions off of it. They've I don't I guess Kane is the guy to ask, but like I can't become a mayor. I don't know who the person is to ask. Who's the person that moved on gracefully, and I don't know. I don't know who the wrestler is to ask. Like, how do I get out of this and live a normal life?
A lot of guys end up coming back eventually. If you notice, like even like I was gonna say Rick Steiner because he went on to do things in education and things like that, but
Mm,
he's even came back and had moments with his son and things like that. So I really don't have an answer for that one. That's an
but
interesting one.
I think I heard Paul Birch went into firefighting. Like, oh, that's genius if you could do that at an early enough age. But
Yeah.
they ain't looking for 46-year-old rookie firefighter. Yeah, so I don't know what to do next, Justin. So I didn't ask them that. I did. I asked them about other stuff, and I really I really like those guys as men, both Rick and Hulk. Um, and I admire them as wrestlers, even though their styles are completely different. And they might not like each other's styles of wrestling, but I think they're both brilliant wrestlers in the way that Hogan could orchestrate this match in a way that it's so pre-planned, it's so obvious. But that's the way it's meant to be. It's like a sing-along. It's like a song that everybody knows, and they get excited to watch it develop in front of them. Whereas Hulk Hogan is for the wrestling, or not Hulk Hogan, but Ric Flair for the one that is paying attention as if it were a sport, and it isn't a sing along. It's full of surprises, and I think they're both geniuses.
Okay. You know, during your run in TNA, you had like one of the most interesting characters. I'm not even going to be able to do it justice. How would you explain your what you were portraying inside the TNA ring?
So what I was trying to be was essentially just a lunatic.
Okay.
The idea is that I was running this experiment that the world is under my control, and so then I'm doing this by like the X Division Championship as evidence that this reality bends to my will. See, I did it. The whole thing was absurd, but because of me being a fan of some of this esoteric stuff, uh, I was, I guess Hulk Hogan was too. Was a fan of people like Alan Watts or what have you. So I was able to somehow get some of this goofy stuff on TV.
What do you think it would have took to maybe make that connect better with the audience?
Oh, I I think the a direction, help from a writer, somebody going, hey, that's you can play this goofball, but where is it headed? What's the direction? What's his motivation? Do we, you know, you got to find out that he's a con man at some point, but it needed tightening up and it needed direction.
What made you decide or them decide to let you go from TNA, or what made you leave TNA?
Um, so my contract, TNA was not like WWE. Their contracts, you know, some of them guys would just show up and you get for that day. Other guys would have guarantee. Other guys would have, uh, so anyways, mine was somewhere in between. You don't work, you don't eat, but I can't go work anywhere else. And I'd been off for a couple of months, and so I just, please, I need my release. I I'm starving, and I eventually got it. It didn't too much pushing, but I got it, and that was I went back to Japan, Europe, and WWE again.
And that time for WWE, you kind of made like a more quieter entrance back into the world of WWE, more working behind the scenes, helping talent. If I'm correct.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they brought me back for the cruiserweight division in like 2016.
Yeah.
So, uh, I come in and done a couple of guest training things here and there, but nothing, no contracted work until after the cruiserweight stuff.
Okay.
Did the cruiserweight stuff until lockdowns. Then when they go with that first batch of peoples, when I got transitioned to coach.
What? How important was it for you as a competitor to be a part of the now historic Cruiserweight Classic?
Oh man, that was the my opportunity back to WWE, and I like the WWE because it has my favorite style of wrestling. Um, I like the uh, I like well, I love the Japanese style. I like the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, all Japan, Noah heavyweight style, the building slow style. But the WWE does that. They build it off of expectations, just the moves aren't as big and dangerous. Um, so it gave me an opportunity to perform in front of my favorite type of audience.
Was it your goal when you came back to maybe help establish that new division, the Cruiserweight division, so that WWE could continue to grow new stars?
My hope was uh, when brought in for the tournament, that everybody I wrestled was offered a contract. That was my goal. I wanted myself to get offered a contract as well, and luckily they did. Um, uh, Raul Mendoza and Tony Nese both signed. Ibushi was not interested, and I myself got offered a contract. It was a success.
Recently on the podcast, I've also been fortunate to talk to Rich Swann, who would end up being the man to take the Cruiserweight Championship from you when you would gain it. What was it like for you to, you do the Cruiserweight Classic, they bring up 205 Live, you win the championship, and then to have that reign and then to be able to pass that torch to somebody like Rich Swann?
I was really I was really happy about that match. Rich Swann, I think, is my favorite person to wrestle. Uh, with him as a babyface, me as a heel. Um, he's he sells perfect. I love the balance. And then with that match specifically, I believe we were in Columbia, South Carolina, but it was a place that isn't traditionally um, too excited about cruiserweight wrestling. It's on a Tuesday night after SmackDown. So the crowd is not happy, but stick around and you'll see Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy later tonight. So we're the last thing that they're going to see before they get to see that main. Anyway, they're not happy to be there, but by the end of it, Rich Swann gives his promo. The crowd reacts warmly. People's hearts are tough, and and the match wound up being great. I was really happy about.
Um, what was it like for you to transition from an active in-ring performer all the time to going into more of the producer role side of things and working with, the likes of Ronda Rousey or even, helping co-produce Bad Bunny?
The Bad Bunny had nothing to do with the produce and only train.
Okay.
Uh, whatever the distinction is, the distinction, whatever,
Fair enough.
whatever that means. Whatever that. Uh, but oh, I mean, I really liked helping out with them. I liked producing matches and stuff. But I I did I did all of it bitterly because not those bitterly, but the I want to wrestle. Uh, uh, I don't want to help people put together their matches. I don't want anybody helping me put together my match. I just want to go wrestle a match. And so it was it's not something I was excited about. It's something I should be grateful for, undoubtedly, because it's a really hard job to get. There's no backup plan for wrestling. Uh, this would be a lifeline. It would allow me to continue to stay in wrestling, uh, for a long time. But it meant you can't wrestle anymore. That's brutal.
Th- Throughout your career, we've talked about, you've been Spanky, doing rapping and all that other stuff. You've had your more crazy lunatic side in TNA, tagging with London, the Brian Kendrick. So there's been many iterations of Brian Kendrick. What's been your favorite, or maybe what you're most proud of throughout your career?
Yeah, cruiserweight classic. Yeah,
Okay.
later on cruiserweight as a older heel would be my favorite.
What about that stuck out above the rest?
Um, I think it's just because I've grown to understand wrestling. And on top of that, the when I was younger, I was an athletic guy, but I wasn't that athletic. It's just the standard wasn't that crazy. Um, with the Cruiserweight Classic, I could wrestle guys who were incredibly gifted, athletic, stuff I could never do, but I knew how to put matches together better. So that's what I like about it. You have a
Okay.
guy who can do reverse 450. I don't have to do it, but I know when to do it, sort of thing. That's why I think I like the best.
Okay. And I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but we talked about the producer role. Um, is there any chance you could ever go back to doing something like that?
I mean, that's not up. I mean, that's only part way up to. I don't have any offers on the table being a producer. Uh, if I were to get an offer, 100% I would consider any offer. Uh, it's hard work. These guys, uh, they're on the road a lot. I live in Los Angeles, so I would have one full day home a week. Uh, it's it's involved in wrestling, so you get to contribute to wrestling. It's great. but you're so close. You're always a bridesmaid, and with the impossibility of being a bride. Um, but I suppose that's not true because guys like Adam Pearce have been heavily involved in TV from the producer position. But all I have to say is, hey, Justin, no one's offering me.
Fair. But I mean, if it had come across the desk, you'd definitely consider it.
Oh, yeah. I, I mean, my wife smacked me if I didn't at least consider it. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Something we talked about briefly off air, but something I'm kind of interested to get your perspective on. I guess just to give a little background. I had Jimmy Jacobs on not too long ago, and we talked about the Briscoes and how Jay and Mark obviously had a phenomenal career in Ring of Honor all over the Indies, and it seems like that Mark has only been afforded the opportunities. I don't want to say only. He has now been given the opportunities afforded to him in light of or in detriment of his brother passing away, which is very unfortunate. And all that's due to something Jay said over 10 years ago on social media. Um, a couple years ago, when you left WWE, immediately it was announced that you would be facing Jon Moxley on Dynamite, and then you got pulled from that. It's rumored to be for controversial things you may or may not have said years ago. How did that situation make you feel when it happened?
Getting pulled, how did it make me feel?
Yeah.
Uh, I was shocked. I was in my gear. I was absolutely shocked. That's how I felt.
What, like, as a competitor and as a human being, like, do you think maybe wrestling fans sometimes take things um to heart too much or maybe the wrong way, especially when all the things you said were obviously in character. You apologized for, and things are said and done on TV that are always taken way out of proportion or whatever. Do you like? Do you think they were too harsh? If that makes sense.
Oh, it, it's not my company, so it's totally up to. Uh, if it were my company, no, I would have supported. I would have supported this guy. Uh, I would have said. I would have supported free speech. I wouldn't have. Uh, it wouldn't have bothered me. But apparently, it's also what it is that they're selling. You know, are they upset? It could be. Are they worried about saving their own neck? It could be. Is it that they're trying to prove that there's something, and are they trying to gain something from it? It could be. I don't know. Uh, what do I think? Yo, man. Yeah, I think a lot of things. I think a lot of things about it. But how did I feel at the time? I was.
Okay. You've still been traveling, wrestling on the independent scene, still tearing it down, even at that
Yeah,
ripe age of 46. Um, what are some of your goals going forward?
I don't know. I don't know. I was fortunate enough to go to Noah late last year. My hope was to go back and do a nice long run, long tour. Nothing's come of that yet. I don't know. I don't know what's going to be next, but for now, I'm just going to see the world. Going to go to Australia next month. I'm excited about that. Going to the UK again in October. Uh, Going down to New Orleans in 2 weeks. So yeah, I don't see the world in the meantime, Justin. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I just want to say, for one, thank you for taking your time to do this podcast and talk with me. I can let you know I've been a fan of yours and a supporter of yours my whole existence and the whole time I've known of you and watched you. So I just want to say thank you for all the things you've contributed to this business and overall entertaining us in this crazy world of professional wrestling.
Well, thanks, Justin. It's very kind of you to say. Thank you for having
Of course, as I do very often, if you ever want to come back on for a part two, I'd love to dive into things like your indie runs and your runs in Japan, things like that. I'll leave the door open if you ever want to come do a part two.
me. Thanks. Appreciate it.